All right. You're listening to the Crave Show with Chris and J. Russ, and we have a really awesome special guest with us tonight. I'm super excited, Mr. Cameron McMahon.
How's it going, guys?
What's up,
Doing good.
Cam?
How are you?
Doing well. Excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man. I'm really excited to hear more about this, about what you guys got going on. J. Russ, how are you?
Great. Just did a little tunnel flying. We flew up to Austin. So we flew in Austin. We drove up to Austin and flew.
Yeah.
The weather was bad at the camp that I'm working with this weekend. Guys, I have to sadly acknowledge that I paid the $20. I didn't
paid the $20.
I didn't feel like everyone wanted to hear my philosophical disagreements with iFly.
No, they did not.
And so I just bit the bullet and paid the fucking $20.
Yeah.
You know what's hilarious? So,
well, hold on. For those of you
Yeah.
that you're listening, for those of you that don't know, J. Russ is talking about the International Body Flight Association, IBA.
yeah,
They recently instituted what I think is very fair, $20 annual membership fee. Don't think of it as $20. Think of it how much it is per day for a year. $20 divided by 365. It's just a few cents, J. Russ. So
shall I retort?
If you want to fly in the tunnel, yes, you totally should retort. You absolutely should. If you want to fly in the tunnel now, your IBA account, you have to have an IBA account, and it has to be up to date. If you're working on level 1 stuff, which is belly flying, then it's a free account. But as soon as you get completely signed off on level 1, your account will go inactive, and you have to pay the $20 membership fee to reactivate your account so you can progress past belly flying onto back, whatever, on and on. So that's the $20, and that's for everybody. Doesn't matter who you are, you have to have that IBA account. It has to be active. So J. Russ went to the tunnel today in Austin. He wanted to fly, and they said, you have to pay your $20. Now let's hear your retort. I want to hear it.
They extorted $20 out of me. So here's my retort, and most of this is serious. So I signed up for the IBA in 2005. It's now 2023, and that policy was, I believe, enacted in May of this year. Somehow we made it 18 years without the need for that extortion, $20, which I certainly can afford, but I don't like paying like a lot of people because I already pay to use the facility. It's just a database. You literally enter the person's name and it's done because the database is all constructed. And all that you're doing then is checkboxing for people as they progress their skills. And what I feel like I'm really paying for are the lawsuits that have happened at iFly that they need to get more money out of a segment of the population that they so clearly do not want at their facility. And I don't mean the guys that I just flew with at the tunnel. I met a guy called Hank, a guy named Drew, who's been working at Paris Valley for about as long as I've been an instructor. He was started in Paris Valley in 2005 or 2006, he said. We know a bunch of the same people.
He's awesome. What a great guy.
Yeah, he was a super good guy. And it's nothing against those guys. It has nothing to do with them at all. I had a good time at the facility. They treated me very, very well, very fairly. I asked beforehand to the lead instructor, who I think is Hank, hey, what's your tolerance on, like, can I talk to these guys? Can I hand signal them? And he gave me, again, a very fair interpretation of what coaching constitutes. And this has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the corporate decisions at iFly that we're not gonna be receptive to these customers. You're not allowed to fly at this time. You're only allowed to fly this much. You've got to fly these hours. Generally speaking, we don't want you here, but we do want that $20 just to maintain a database that requires no upkeep. And so, look, I'm not behind the scenes of IBA. I just know that we made it a very long time without paying that $20. And it's frustrating to me that when a company that doesn't seem to want my business, but does want my money.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna give a retort.
Okay.
This is not in defense of iFly at all. I don't have a dog in the fight for the IBA and that, but coming from a background of graphic design and before that, and along with that, web development and web design, building and maintaining a website it takes a lot of work. And when you said what you said a second ago actually wasn't true. When you said it requires no maintenance, that's honestly, that's not true, especially a huge database like that and a website like that is pretty, somewhat complex. It requires a ton of work. Now, I'm not trying to I'm just talking about just specifically from the technical aspect. There is a lot of work and
like $1.6 million a year.
I don't
Go ahead. Tell me.
No, I don't know. I'm not specifically trying to defend.
Listen, if you as a website designer received an offer from JRuss to maintain that website for $1.6 million a year, would that be a good deal?
Dude, that would be a fantastic deal. Are you offering?
No, but I am saying that IBA as an institution could have charged me 50 cents, had $40,000 a year with a roughly $80,000 membership in the IBA, 80,000 people. That's 40 grand to maintain that website, and I pay 50 cents, much more palatable. In spite of the fact that $20 is not a lot of money, they don't need $1.6 million to maintain that website.
Okay, now to move forward, because this is a great. What was that? I mean, we just keep arguing. I think JRS and I, we just have fun arguing.
I was just thinking about Pulp Fiction. Oh, you were finished? Well, allow me to retort.
I told you I haven't seen it.
Oh, God, that's right. You haven't seen Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, because this is good. To your point, there have been a lot of skydivers over the past short time, long time actually, for a while, that have been very, I'm going to say, disenfranchised, I think is a nice way to put it, about the way that they feel, the way whether it's true or not, the feeling is real, that they feel like they're not welcome or don't have the opportunity, don't receive the same service or hospitality or acceptance at iFly. A lot of skydivers, I've heard that from lots and lots of people, and I'm just stating a fact of what I've heard. So that's not talking bad about the company or the business. I'm just telling you what a sector of the customers have said. So this does feed right into what the reason we have Cam on tonight is. We want to talk about, we want to hear about, Cam, what you were doing. And we had Ray on a few weeks ago, your business partner. And so, you had told us that you guys got a lot of good feedback from that show, that episode, a lot of questions. And there's a lot of people who, number one, don't even know what you guys are doing.
Right.
So we want more people to know. So if you're listening to this, whether you're listening to it live or you're hearing it on YouTube or Spotify after we record it, please share this information with your skydiving friends. We want people to know about Fly Away Tennessee. Fly Away Tennessee. Fly Away Tennessee.
Get it out there,
okay?
Man.
Please share, because this is super cool.
Yeah.
Really,
no coincidence.
Awesome. Okay. They're doing some fun stuff. We're going to hear more about it. We're going to try to answer questions that we know people have. But if we don't answer a question you have, reach out to these guys. They want to hear from you. They want to talk to you. So, okay. JRuss, do you want to give an intro? You want Cam to go into it? What do you want to do?
I don't want to steal any of Cam's thunder. Let's hear who you are, Cam.
All right. Well, I'm Cameron McMahon. I am one of, I don't know how many other there are, but I know that I am one of very few second generation wind tunnel instructors in the world. My dad was an instructor, started in '92 in Flyaway Pigeon Forge, spent a decent amount of time on the portables, and then with the assistance of John Suter and Phil Henderson, went and opened the original SkyVenture Orlando tunnel with Bill Kitchen. And I've been around the sport pretty much my entire life. I've been flying on and off since I was 2.5. I've only got a little over 700 jumps, so nowhere near as many skydives as I'd like to have, but I spend a lot more time in the windy room than I do jumping.
Cool. And you've got a project going right now.
We got a big one. I've been working on this tunnel project for almost 7 years. When I started working on this, I was competing with Colin Robb on a two-way dynamic team, and competition was really exciting kind of at that point. I was super lucky that when I transitioned from flyaway to modern wind tunnel technology, that I kind of caught the tail end of the golden era. I mean, like some of my favorite videos, you've got the Undercover Ninja stuff, you've got all the Nexus stuff and Maktoum coming out of Dubai. We've got, oh man, why am I spacing? Oh, like Mikasa Sukasa, Keith Creedy, all the great XP videos and everything. So I really kind of caught that tail end of this golden era in skydiving and competing, and went to Spain, got to go to Canada, got to go to Japan, and saw how much potential there was. But recognized that as a competitor, like I still worked full time at the tunnel. I was lucky enough to have a bunch of sponsorships. I had a small sponsorship with like a sports drink company. We were sponsored by a couple manufacturers. So we were getting gear and we were getting money to actually go and travel and compete, which was great. But even then,
can I get the name of those sponsors? Can I get some contact?
Well, it was Strike Force. Strike Force.
No, I'm kidding, man. Good, carry on.
No longer around, unfortunately. But point being is, we at the time, I mean, you got the Wittenbergs and then you had the Vipers, who are really like the biggest international contenders. And sitting down and talking to everybody competing at the world level, anytime you looked at the podium, you could pretty much say they're in first place, and you ask them how many hours did they train in the wind tunnel, and it'd be like, oh, I trained 300 hours. And then you ask second place, how many hours did you train? About 250. Third place, how many did you train? About 200. And it kind of worked from there. So once you kind of got to that upper echelon, there really wasn't a whole lot of difference in the scores or in people's capability. It was really just how much effort or how much time people were able to spend in the tunnel. And then I'm just thinking about my tunnel back home. I was working at Virginia Beach, and I was working 12-hour shifts and then staying after hours so I could train. And that's just it's not something that you can sustain for a long period of time. So I first started on this wind tunnel journey just being like, man, I want to make a wind tunnel that's specific for pro flyers, that's just for competition, where we can have people come and train, take this sport seriously, and run this type of stuff all the time. And then I kind of wised up and realized that that doesn't always work, and tried to find the best way to give the people in the sport who had the same desires that I did that same opportunity, but still run a successful business. Because at the end of the day, this is a business. We do have to make enough money to continue to run.
You have to charge $20 for annual membership. I mean,
get me started.
I think here's the difference, right? And J. Russ, you actually, this is a huge reason why I'm so thankful to even have this opportunity. You brought up a bunch of great points in the podcast you did with Skydive Radio with Matt Ryan and Mickey and Rusty, right? And the point you made is you guys set the price for tunnel time. We still will buy tunnel time either way. Like, you guys are the ones who decide how much we pay for it. If you don't want to sell us tunnel time because you're not charging enough, then like charge us more and we'll fly. So looking at that and not wanting to take advantage of people, but recognizing that there's an opportunity out there. We want to give the people what they want. And we know that we're going to run something successful by doing that. That's where the dual tunnel model really kind of came into play. And I think Ray describes it the best way that skydivers can kind of grasp, where a single iFly model is like a single plane drop zone. And you can have your AFF students, your military contracting, come in Monday through Friday, but on the weekends, they have to fly tandems, because if they're not getting that tandem money, they can't keep the drop zone open. So as cool as it was for you to come in and do AFF on Wednesday or do a couple fun jumps Thursday evening, if they don't fly those tandems on the weekend, then they can't support you. And I think that's really the corner that iFly has currently backed themselves into, is they built something awesome. They built and designed technology that was better than we ever thought it could be, to the point where now you can have someone with 0 skydives. They can now shred their ass off, and they go, and it's the skill set that somebody can pick up in 6 months is something that would have taken a skydiver 2 years to do 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? So we've really leveled the playing field as far as body flight comprehension and capabilities go. But iFly didn't account for how popular it was going to be and how many people would want to utilize the wind tunnel and how many people would actually want to pursue the sport and do something great with it. So by doing the dual wind tunnel model, we're able to have the 14-foot tunnel where we fly first-time flyers all day. So the business makes money, the business is lucrative, which allows us to then provide great opportunities to skydivers, to tunnel flyers. We can charge discounted rates for the tunnel time. So even though we're in this for business, our retail hour for tunnel time for the Pro Flyer tunnel is $1,000, which is pretty much industry standard for a 17-foot tunnel. But our member hour starts at 600 and goes down from there. So if you want to come and be a member at our tunnel, you're somebody who wants to do this seriously. You're not just somebody walking in off the street, coming and buying 30 minutes for, a one-time jam. We're going to take care of you. We're going to enable you to pursue this sport and give you resources and preliminary or early signups for camps and courses and events and give you discounts on gear. And we want to make sure that you feel welcome and recognized and that you actually have the opportunity and the location to pursue the sport. And you are your only limit at that point. You really kind of put a cap on yourself because you've got a 17-foot tunnel that we can run 24 hours a day. So that's up to you.
Okay. I know people are going to have the question because that sounds awesome. Do you have those membership specifics fleshed out yet? Have y'all talked through that? Is that stuff? Can you share that information? At least give people, because I know that's my question. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, okay, what do I pay? What do I get?
Yeah. So what we've got built out right now is we're looking at doing an annual membership for $1,000 per year, a 6-month membership for $750, and then a month-to-month membership for $300. So essentially, what that allows people to do is, if you live in the U.S. or regardless of where you live, if you have the ability to frequent the facility, you're going to come often, then you can get an annual membership. All of the memberships are going to grant you access to the tiered discounted tunnel time system, right? So it immediately, you go from $1,000 hour immediately to a $600 hour. You also get to get the early access signups for camps. We'll have member exclusive events, stuff like that. J. Russ, I mean, you remember when we did Flight Club? I'd like to do similar stuff like that just for members. So we have, some really awesome, we bring out organizers, getting people of similar skill sets together and saying, hey, you know how to do these things. We have amassed a group of people who are at the same level as you. Let's go and do some baby bird sequentials. Let's figure out how it works. On top of that, we're doing discounted room nights at the resort, which is a kind of a newer addition to the Wind Tunnel, but we're very excited about discounts in the pro shop right now. We're looking at 15% off of everything in the pro shop. We'll obviously have to kind of work that a little bit. We've got a few dealerships set up, but the intention is to do 15% off on everything at the pro shop as well. And then you've got access to our full gym and recovery center, which right now is slated to be a 5,000 square foot gym. We'll have saunas. We've got ice baths. We're going to have an athletic trainer on staff and a few other medical or kinesiology level people. So the intention there is to make sure we're maintaining a healthy staff. We want to make sure our staff is healthy and able to recover in the case of an injury, but we're also offering that same information and same capability to customers as well. So if we've got a competition team, if Core's there and J. Russ gets some tennis elbow or whatever, we can have somebody kind of give him some PT. Or even then, if, a big desire of mine is I would like to have a pretty broad lineup of sponsored athletes or brand ambassadors, and anybody that's on our crew, anybody that's on our team, I want them to be able to show up and say, hey, these are my goals. This is the type of lifestyle I'd like to maintain. These are my weak areas, and have somebody that can walk them through that. And it's funny how many different people I've worked with and what I've even seen in my personal life, where you think you know how to take care of yourself or you think you know how to work out. And then you realize that dull pain that you have in your shoulder every day is because you got a bad habit when you're doing something. So having an expert be able to sit down and talk with you, especially somebody who understands body flight as well, and could say, hey, I know what you're putting yourself through in the tunnel. I know what's happening to you when you're jumping. So let's build a plan around that and make sure that we can keep you jumping and keep you flying for as long as possible.
Dude, you're giving me all sorts of ideas.
Yeah.
Like,
go ahead. You go first, Chris.
Could we have Krav camps there? Could we
Absolutely.
maybe film Krav courses? Maybe you have a studio and we come and film podcasts or courses dude.
Those are all things that we want to do. And that's another piece of, we've talked about kind of doing this under the membership. What I think we would like to do, for Ray and I, this is a huge passion. Like Ray and I mean, Ray has been doing this pretty much as long as I've been alive. I've been around the sport pretty much my whole life. And I've said this before too, like pretty much every positive thing that's ever happened in my life has been related to flying in one way or another. So anything I can do to give back to the sport or to continue to provide it or enable it to others, I want to do that in the best way possible. So we want to put out as many knowledge resources and stuff as we can. We don't want to put a bunch of stuff behind a paywall, but we've talked about the possibility of having some higher tier courses or maybe some kind of like one-on-one, like in a perfect world, if we did a paywall type thing or even a partnership with Krav where we can do a live Q&A with JRUS and say, hey, if you're interested in competing in BFS at the world level or interested in sequentials or big ways, we now have an online open forum where you can go in and ask your questions and you can be talked through everything, maybe even provide a seminar with that. I think as much of that could be free would be great, but we also have to make sure we can pay people to continue to enable things like that.
So the impression of the overall impression that I get, which I hope I'm stating this correctly, is that it seems like a business model that's more of a partnership between the customers and the host. And that's super nice to hear. And I think I don't actually know the background for Matt Ryan or how he got involved in iFly, but the meeting that you brought up with Rusty and Mickey and Matt, it really highlighted to me that behind the scenes, Mickey and Rusty are competitive skydivers. Obviously very qualified tunnel flyers, and they've been around the industry for a long time. And I feel like in other conversations that I've heard that maybe the guidance that they're trying to give is falling on deaf ears, and that the decisions are being made are not necessarily the guy being offered. And in this case, what I find really promising is that you and Ray are making the decisions, and you are the competitive skydivers, and you are the competitive tunnel flyers, and this has been your world. And it isn't necessarily about. To me, what I'm hearing is it's a partnership. It's about sharing that passion of getting better in the sport, of the amazing facility that a tunnel offers to the skydiving world, and finding a way to welcome everyone in what sounds to me, if we were to sum it up in a few words, as a non-zero sum game. We all win,
right.
Which is really refreshing.
That's really, when it came down to it, the mindset of, I need to make as much money as possible. Like the amount of times that I've sat at the tunnel and been like, man, we've got 20 minutes on the books today, and I'm here for the next 14 hours. What could we do? What could we do differently? And I've been very lucky I've never worked for a corporate tunnel. I've gone and done some military training and some instructor training and stuff at other tunnels. I've been kind of contracted out for that, but I've worked at iFly Virginia Beach. I had a very short stint in SkyVenture New Hampshire, and then spent some time at Paraclete. And I've been really lucky to kind of stay on the edges, and usually always have been at places that at least valued skydivers and tunnel flyers enough to, like, Virginia Beach has a really robust membership program. They do a pretty good job with that. Paraclete's got a great membership program. They obviously really love skydivers there. New Hampshire's New Hampshire, but we'll just kind of leave that there.
The thing is, I know there's a funny story behind that. I don't have any idea what it is, but I know that there is a funny story back there. And I'm not going to make you say it on camera. Let's just acknowledge that it's funny and move on.
The short and sweet of it was, and it's ironic to me now, but I was working at Flyaway at the time, had aspirations to join the military, and then was offered a job in New Hampshire because Joe Winters was the lead there. And my dad trained Joe Winters forever ago. So personal connection there. I was like, yeah, screw it. Yeah, why not? I'll go up there. I'll go try it out. And I got there. I did about 3 hours of an FITP, and they needed somebody to cover one of the instructors on the surf stream, the wave pool out there, because he had to go and do his reserve drill for a month. So I ended up on the surf stream, and then I was like, hey, when am I going to get back in the tunnel? And the argument was that I was under 185 and under 6 foot. So I wasn't big enough to be a tunnel instructor. Ironically, now I'm still not over 6 foot, but I'm definitely over 5. So it's their loss. But I met Zach Jones in New Hampshire, and Zach was going down to iFly Virginia Beach. And he's like, man, you really want to be in the tunnel. You should come with me. And told me that Ray was going to be the lead. And I had been hearing about Ray pretty much my whole life, especially when I started working at Flyaway. Rob Ogle, the gentleman who owned Flyaway Pigeon Forge at the time, had hired Ray 16 years before he hired me. So I got to hear about all of Ray's antics in the his 8 or 9 years that he worked for Rob in Vegas. So when I heard that Ray was running Virginia Beach, it was going to be closer to home. It was no questions. It was just like, all right, let's do it. Move to Virginia Beach. Nice. And here we are. Almost 11 years as a tunnel instructor.
So you mentioned a couple names, and I want to go back to that because I'm sure that just blazed by everybody. But the one that I want to talk about is John Suter.
Yep.
Would you agree? I know this is somewhat contentious. Was John Suter the first person who flew head down?
No.
No?
To my knowledge, and Ray will probably correct me on this, but to my knowledge, it was John Pinion was the first guy.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah. And you've also got the Pinion spin, which is like a head up Daffy spin. I'm probably no, Robbie Roberts was after John Pinion. I'm pretty sure it's John Pinion.
Here's the team called Standard that was a VFS team at Skydive Chicago long while ago. That's the last I remember John Pinion being active in skydiving was probably the 2006 Nationals, maybe 2007, when he was supposed to be on Standard, but he ended up supporting a different team. That was the last skydiving event that I saw him at. But a lot of people won't even remember.
Which is crazy because he brought his son in to Flyaway Pigeon Forge in like 2011, and he was in my class. And John didn't fly. I flew his kid, and he came out, and he's like, "Oh, you're Scott's son, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." He's like, "Oh, I'm John Pinion." I was like, "No way, the John Pinion!" I was losing my mind, and he was just like, he just looked like every other dad I knew from East Tennessee, and I was like, "What happened?" Nothing against you, John. You're a great guy. Love you.
Yeah.
Hey, Cam. So you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want people to have a clear, like a clear vision of what you guys are planning. So I don't know if you have anything that you can like share your screen, pull up on the screen, like a image or drawing, but we don't have to have that. But just even if you just talk through like, what is the full vision of when Flyaway Tennessee is completely done and I pull up and I walk around, what all is going to be there? I mean, you touched on a lot of it, but still, I think there are some things that you didn't cover.
So what this has grown and really matured into, I think is kind of the best way to say, is Flyaway Tennessee, the wind tunnel, is now part of the Flyaway Adventure Resort, which is an adventure-themed resort with the wind tunnels as kind of the crown jewel of the facility. It's a 4-star, 300-room resort. Now, I know some skydivers are going to hear 4-star and they're like, oh man, that sounds a little bougie. That's a little white collar for me. But on the skydiver side and with the wind tunnel, we've actually got a separate floor built out that has direct access to the wind tunnel. So for anybody looking for more economical lodging, we've actually got dorm style and some smaller rooms and stuff over there, which would be perfect for teams, groups of people wanting to come out, camps, anything like that. We're also using that for military contracting side. But we, again, looked at skydivers and said, we want to be able to offer them something great. So kind of building off of FlySpot's all-inclusive package, we've got dorm style rooms or smaller rooms where skydivers can come in, get lodging included with their tunnel time, get their coaching included, meals and all that stuff. So we've got a 14-foot diameter tunnel during business hours that's going to be specific for first-time flyers. Outside of business hours, that'll be open to skydivers as well at a discounted rate. So it's a discount off of the Pro Flyer tunnel. The Pro Flyer tunnel is a 17-foot tunnel that is open to Pro Flyers and DoD contracting 24/7. The design for the facility, if anybody's seen old stuff or looked at the stuff on our website, is still very similar. We've kind of moved the first timer tunnel where it's a little bit closer to the lobby, but as far as the Pro Flyer tunnel still having a separate floor, that's still the intention. So the Pro Flyer area will have a separate floor. We've got massive team rooms. We've got a couple large lecturing spaces. We've got the full dedicated pro shop down there. We've got some stretching and warm-up areas. Also inside the tunnel facility, like I mentioned earlier, we have that gym and recovery center. So 5,000 square foot gym. And then we've got the recovery center with the saunas, the ice baths, PTs and athletic trainer, everything like that. We start getting out into the resort. Right now, we're going to have four, hopefully 5 food and beverage options, kind of ranging from everything from like Starbucks tropical smoothie to some nicer dinners. And then we're looking to have a moonshine and whiskey distillery on site, zip line, full rock climbing gym with a dedicated shop there. And then kind of our last stop is an excursion center. And the excursion center, I think, is really cool. For those of you who don't know, like I grew up in East Tennessee where we're building the tunnel. And it really is one of my favorite places on the planet. I've been lucky enough to travel and go somewhere, and a lot of people think about Pigeon Forge or East Tennessee, and they're like, man, there's a lot of rednecks over there. And there are, but there's also a lot of really great people, and the Smoky Mountains are absolutely beautiful. So that's really a big thing that we want to be able to show people and to give people access to when they come to the tunnel. And working at Paraclete, it's something I heard all the time. People would come to town, they would drive in from Cincinnati and have their hotel in Fayetteville and be at the tunnel, and they'd finish their couple hours of tunnel time and be like, well, what can I do? You go to the drop zone.
Don't get shot.
Yeah, don't get shot.
Do that.
You can go to PKs or you can hang out here
Yeah.
and see what happens. So being able to give people direct access to the Smoky Mountains is fantastic too. So where we're building the resort, the Smokies are 20 minutes from our doorstep. So we'll have a full shuttle service. We're going to do guided hikes. We'll have a daily thing. Like even if you don't want to do a guided hike, we just have a shuttle that's running into the park. So you don't need a car. You can show up, you get on the bus, you go into the park. We'll pick you up later. Horseback riding, fly fishing tours, skeet shooting. We want to do kind of adventure trips and stuff for the kids. And it's really finding as many ways to kind of go down the adventure lifestyle. I mean, the amount of skydivers that mountain bike, it's incredible. East Tennessee has changed a lot since I moved away. So they actually, in Knoxville, which is about a 30-minute drive from the resort, they have something called the Baker's Creek Preserve, which is, and I'm probably misquoting this a little bit, but I think it's a 10 square mile mountain biking course. They've got a bunch of pump tracks. They've got a little dirt BMX area, and then they've got like 30 something miles of greenways. And it's actually a really great downhill mountain biking course. So like we've got people who come into town and they want to mountain bike. We put them on the shuttle. We take them downtown. Yeah.
Can you define greenways?
Greenways, it's just a paved kind of outdoor nature trail that connects cities or connects different areas.
Okay.
Yeah. So cool. It's I think it's a highway for pedestrians or for biking, essentially, but it's a greenway.
Yeah, greenway typically means that bicycles and things like that are allowed on them and actually expected. So it's not just it's not like a sidewalk where people are like, hey, get your bike off the side. You know, like
Right,
they expect to see bikes and mountain bikes and all that stuff on there.
Right. So you know, the amount of people who live out in Eloy that they're done jumping, or there's a couple dust devils that come up and they just run home and grab their mountain bike, and then we'll go and hit some of the trails outside of Eloy, or, you know, people who climb or whatever. I want to give them more things to do than just come and hang out at the tunnel. So we're very lucky to have the opportunity to do that with the geographic location. We have all the great offerings at the resort, and by doing the excursion center, we're able to give people even more great options.
So I could bring my family to the resort and never even step foot in the tunnels and have a wonderful time.
Absolutely. That's really the intent too. And I mean, I've got 2 kids. I know what it's like to travel and kind of go do stuff. So it's always easier when the family can go along, or when there's stuff for the family to do, or even a lot of the kids that we have in the sport. You know, I've coached a handful of kids that are competitive and their parents don't fly. And it's like, man, wouldn't it be great for you to, instead of just sitting over here on the flight deck all day with your headphones on because it's loud and we got first timers and stuff around, like, go hang out in your room, go sit at the pool, go do a whiskey tasting, go do whatever, like give you some other options as well. So we're not just confined to, I'm here for the tunnel and that's all I'm here for. If that's your focus and that's what you want to do, go for it. Absolutely. You have every option. But if you're somebody who really loves to fly, but you also like having a good time, you also have that opportunity too. We don't want to just box you in and say, this is all you have, this is all we're offering you. You get a great price, but I hope you like sitting around and watching people fly all day.
So before we're a long way from being done, but I just want to make sure that you mentioned the website. So if you don't mind just saying what that is now.
www.flyawaytn.com.
Cool. So we'll revisit that before we sign off. Yep. There's a couple questions that I had while I was listening that I know you have answers to because I've asked them before, but what is the closest DZ and what kind of partnership or cooperation do you have with them?
So Skydive East Tennessee is the closest drop zone, and that's owned by Gary Spears, who actually owned Flyaway Pigeon Forge way back in the day. They currently have a 182 and a 206 that flies out of that drop zone, but they have a 1,600-foot paved runway. I've had one conversation with Gary. I know he's super excited about us coming out there, and he said, you know, once things are concrete, just let him know. He even jokingly offered to sell us the drop zone, which is something that we've kind of partially considered. So that drop zone, we could fly up to a Caravan out of there. If we had a really, really good pilot, we could probably fly an Otter out of there, but it would be tight, you know, depending on the winds. For a 1,600-foot runway, there is grass, but just judging off of the paved runway. And then Jump TN is about 30 minutes further than Skydive East Tennessee. So it's about 35 minutes from the tunnel to Skydive East Tennessee and just under an hour to Jump TN. And they're at a municipal airport. I believe they have a King Air and a 206. They have a King Air pretty much through the whole summer. They might have had a Kodiak this last season as well. So we fully intend to have some really, really great partnerships with them, do a lot of events, beef up their AFF programs, all kinds of stuff like that. Luckily, I'm connected to people at both drop zones, so it's not going to be a difficult partnership to build once things are up and running.
What's the seasons like? Like, do they jump during the winter? I don't know Tennessee weather that well.
You know, ironically, I've never jumped in Tennessee, even though I'm from there. But Tennessee gets about 280 jumpable days a year, so. If you're far enough outside of the mountains, the weather is really not that bad. I mean, we would get snow, we would get snow in maybe February, but it would never be anything crazy unless you were up in higher elevation. If you were in higher elevation, you're probably getting 5 to 6 inches. But if you're down in the valley or kind of off past the foothills, it's like if you get a half inch, everybody's like, oh man, it's so much snow. So I really think you could jump through November. We're going to be down there this week, and it's I think a high of 65 like all week, and it's still going to be sunny. You know, so if people want to jump, you can jump. I think you could jump March through November and probably be fine, honestly.
You had mentioned like a state park, maybe that's very close to where you're at, that garners maybe the most visitors in the U.S. for a state park or something like that. Millions of people.
The Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So it's crazy. The Smoky Mountains get 15 million visitors a year.
Wow.
The next closest, I believe, is Yellowstone. If it's not Yellowstone, it's Zion. But the next closest is 4 million people a year. So we've got more than a 10 million person jump.
Yeah.
For the park, which is insane. And the Smokies, a lot of people give the Smokies crap, you know, because the highest peak in the Smokies is 6,500 feet. So you got these extremists that are like, that's not tall enough. I need to go, you know, summit a 14er. All right, man, you do your thing. But the Smokies they're fantastic. It's beautiful. It's one of the most biodiverse places on the planet because it's one of the oldest mountain ranges on the planet. So if you're into you're into horticulture, you're into botany, or you like any type of creatures or anything, actually a really cool thing, if you come to the Smokies in August, there is a crazy phenomenon with the fireflies that only happens on 2 places on the planet. It's in the Smokies and then somewhere in China. And it's this, the fireflies all come out and they blink in unison during their mating season.
Oh,
so it's at Elkmont, so it is pitch black, and then the entire forest is like lights up in just super bright ember, and then turns off. And then lights
there
up,
may be,
turns off.
Yeah, there may be the possibility of an adult over the rainbow journey center there as well. Just listening to that, I don't know. Okay, that's a J. Russ sidebar. Okay, so you also mentioned at one time that you were part of the TVA. Is that right? The Tennessee Valley Authority, as far as your power consumption is reliable.
So that's a huge thing for us, and why Pigeon Forge is so great, and why we're able to offer really great rates for tunnel time as well. As we've got the TVA. It's the Norris Hydroelectric Dam, which is like 8 miles from our door. So the hydroelectric dam produces the majority of the electricity for East Tennessee, and Tennessee also put legislature through earlier this year to turn nuclear power back on. So East Tennessee already had super cheap power, and it's looking like it's going to be getting cheaper, which is great for us.
And so a couple of those things there, you've got a lot of visitors, you've got nearby DZs, you've got cheap power. It's almost like you thought about the location.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. I actually, for a long time, thought about putting a tunnel in Nashville, because it's like Nashville's a hot spot. They got an international airport. This would be great. And then the more I really thought about it, as awesome as Nashville is, and there's a bunch of great DZs and everything around there, when it came to having enough first-time flyer traffic to support the business so we could support pro flyers the way we wanted to, I recognize that Nashville wasn't the spot. It's the bachelorette and bachelor party capital of the U.S. right now. You know, it's like everybody wants to go. They want to drink. They want to go down Broadway. They want to get kind of crazy. So although they get a lot of visitors, they're not putting their time and money into stuff like Flyaway. And that's what makes Pigeon Forge so incredible. And more and more people are hearing about it now. Pigeon Forge has been around for forever, and people have been going there for a long time. And now, I was there this weekend, or this previous weekend, and run into people who are like, I've been coming here, like my grandparents used to bring my dad here, and then my dad brought me here, and now I'm bringing my kids here, and the area continues to grow. It's an 8-hour drive from like 108 million people. Like most of the country east of the Mississippi can get to Pigeon Forge in about 8 hours. So you've got super easy access for pretty much everybody from every stature, state of life, and every walk of life, different professional backgrounds, different hobbies. So it's really a great kind of blending of people and opportunity, which allows us to run a really successful business and then give that back to the pro flyers.
What's the closest airport?
What was that?
What's the closest airport? Like a good sized airport?
Closest airport's McGee Tyson, which is in Knoxville, and it's similar to probably like the Fayetteville airport, or like the Norfolk airport. It's kind of a good like regional airport. Nashville or Atlanta would be the closest international airports. Maybe Charlotte, actually, now that I think about it.
So when I go to Fayetteville, I fly into Charlotte, and then I take a little puddle jumper over to Fayetteville. It's something similar situation.
It'd be a very similar situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
you would probably connect through either Charlotte or Atlanta or Nashville and then land right in Knoxville. We're going to have a shuttle that runs to Knoxville pretty much every day if needed. And that's a 35 or 40-minute drive from the airport back to the resort.
You had said one time when Steph and I were there that that it was possible maybe you were kicking around a shuttle between the tunnel and the nearest DZ. Is that still something you might be doing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
The way that you laid out the tunnel, like we were just at a competition, well, not just, but months ago, we were at a competition in Norway at Voss. And I think that Skydive Chicago is an amazing place, and Voss is right there. And so what you're describing as far as what people can do and get when they show up to your place, you know, you walk into Voss and it's like this hobbit forest, and there's tree houses and there's saunas up there. And then there's a gym where you can work out, and there's a climbing wall. And if you walk across the street at like 20 feet, there's a kayaking spot, and there's climbing at the end of the runway, like legit rock climbing, and there's hiking, and there's more to do. It's not just you show up and skydive, and if you don't skydive, good luck. There's a sweet restaurant. There's an amazing pizza bar, and so it's what you're describing is reminding me of that. And then that dovetailed into thinking about Core, our team has started to train at Colorado Springs, and how excited I was that they have a restaurant inside. Cool, a tunnel has a restaurant inside. If I'm hungry, I can get something to eat without leaving. They have a bar, and if your flyers want to have a drink after they're done, they can sit around and have a beer. And you're talking about like an order of magnitude more at your facility that can be done, and that it's just like I'm not digging on Colorado Springs. I love it that they're having us, and it's a great tunnel, and I'm super stoked. But also to be real, what you're potentially offering people is tremendous, and that's great.
I mean, it's doing something like putting in a small restaurant where it's like, oh, we got a couple beers on tap, we can do some wine, and then we've got these microwavable pizzas or whatever we can do for you. That's great. And it's something that it's an effort enough where you're like, man, I feel valued, and I'm glad that I don't have to leave.
Yeah.
In that same breath, it's not that I think I'm better than that. It's that I want to do better than that. I want to take it to the best that we possibly can. Try to push it as far as we can, because in the 7 years pretty much that I've been working on this, I've been asking people questions and just like, hey man, in a perfect world, what would you want at a one tunnel? What would you pay? What should we offer? What type of gear should we have? And just asking all of those questions and hearing everybody's responses and building this, Rolodex of all of our answers for what everybody's looking for. People are pretty consistent in what they want to spend their money on and what they want and what they're willing to do for it. And those answers have been the same for like the last 5 years. So if I've gotten the same answers for the last 5 years and everybody wants this tip of the spear type thing, by the time we're even ready for it and it's open, people are already going to have pushed past that. So really the only way to meet the demands and the expectations of people and drive the sport to the next level so we can continue, building with ingenuity and innovation, we have to just take this leap and take it further than anybody else has. Once we bridge that gap, now we're kind of in this upper echelon, and now we have new space for innovation and ingenuity, and we can create new things and take the sport in new places.
Kim, we've been on for 48 minutes, and there's no limit to what we do. There's sort of an informal, Chris tells a joke about wasting another hour on the cruise. But he says that whether it's 90 minutes or 100 minutes or whatever. So but as we're getting kind of close to the really non-specific ending, I don't want to end on a negative note, but I do want to ask you, because I'm sure that there are other people listening who are aware of previous attempts at non-iFly tunnels to exist in the United States, and the pushback in legal terms and lawsuits and blah, blah, blah that have happened, where iFly has tried to enforce patents and basically squeeze out competition. So could you touch, I mean, that has to be something that that you guys have gone over ad nauseum. And if there's a way that you can sum up sort of how do you expect to handle that? What do you expect for pushback? How are you sort of covering those bases?
So I think the best way to summarize that is that the game of patents and legal battles is always kind of ever changing, and people are going to push or try to find whatever little avenues they can go down to prevent somebody from doing something that they don't want them to do. Where we are very lucky is I think our timing honestly couldn't be any better. Number one, is as massive as iFly has grown to be, and as much as they're dealing with at the moment in the terms of legal battles and settlements and things like that, we have come along at a point and said, hey, we want skydivers. And I think just being completely honest and transparent, as much as they want your money, skydivers are a liability because the people at the top don't understand how that side of the business works. They don't know what it takes to run a successful skydiver business because they're not skydivers, and I can't fault them for that. So when they look at somebody coming in and somebody wants to learn layouts and they've got their level 2 instructor who's been doing it for 3 or 4 months, and somebody gets in the tunnel and gets hurt, that's a huge liability for them. So us coming along at this point and saying, hey, we want to alleviate that stress and that burden from you, and we're going to offer people a place to come and train. We want all of those people. That's really going to be a good fit for us. We're very well connected at the IBA. We've heard some things. I don't want to name any names, but we've heard things from people higher up in places at iFly and at the IBA that they have no intention of pursuing anything with us. Just because of who we are, our reputation and tenure with iFly and with the IBA, the prominence of the Flyaway name, and kind of our place in history for what we've provided to the sport. And then again, our timing. Also, the manufacturer we're using, when I decided I wanted to use technology other than iFly, I sent out a blast of emails to pretty much every other manufacturer and said, I want to build in the US. This is what I want to do. What can we make happen? And everybody was like, maybe let's talk, let's see, let's get on a phone call. When I heard back from STRL, which was formerly Storenia Litnov, the first email I got from them was a patent packet from a US-based law firm that had reviewed iFly's patents and their patents and had a full 15-page workup that was like, nope, you're good, everything's fine. It's our legal opinion that there's absolutely no way you'd have any issues in court if you were to be sued for patent infringement.
And is that is that Hurricane Factory?
That's Hurricane Factory, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And a little peek behind the curtain as well, without getting into it too much. ISG didn't lose a patent battle with iFly.
Right.
They were strong-armed into a settlement that kept them. The settlement was they basically agreed to not sell any wind tunnel technology in North America, South America, or New Zealand until 2025 or 2026. And that is pretty much what happened with that. I firmly believe that had ISG not been forced into that settlement, that things would be a lot different now. But the way everything played out, ISG really had no other way forward other than taking the settlement. Just the way it kind of played out, they would have screwed over a lot of their customers. And I think Boris really didn't want to do that, which I have tons of respect for him. And
I'm going to say a couple things on that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I might not be in the possession of the right information. But it was my understanding that you're correct that they didn't lose the lawsuit. They agreed to settle because the European court said if this goes to trial, you must shut down all of your tunnels while there's a question of, and that was a considerable amount of business and work lost, people who would have to be laid off. And so Boris did end up taking that deal. And if I'm correct, the court did eventually rule in favor of ISG, but the deal had already passed, and he had agreed to a 10-year moratorium basically on building tunnels in the US.
Right. And it's interesting in the world of patents as well, where we say that they ruled in favor of ISG. At the end of the day, they didn't really rule in favor of ISG. iFly's patents were modified in the European Union, and everything that you can find is translated, so it's not perfect English. But the short and sweet of it is, iFly's patents were modified to no longer include the whole. I guess the whole meaning of the indoor skydiving simulator, where originally their designs, regardless of the dimensions, the technology, the placement of said technology inside of the system, they were trying to argue that the idea of the indoor skydiving simulator itself was the patented item, which isn't possible in the world of patents. It's really just not. And I think they had gotten away with it for so long because of how niche it is.
Yeah.
But when you get to a point where now you've got two international groups who are competing, and they're multi-million-dollar companies, and it's like, okay, hang on, we need to take a closer look at this now. If that really was the case, and this is something I've talked to a handful of skydivers about when they posed this same question to me, was like, if iFly was really able to hold the patent on the indoor skydiving simulator, then there would be no other car manufacturers in the world. Like, everybody would own a Ford, and that's it. There wouldn't be anything else out there because it's a car and they own the patent to the car, and nobody else can build anything regardless of if it's designed differently, which just really isn't the case. I mean, there's been cases where somebody's designed a proprietary item, they've patented it, and then somebody came along and said, man, that's awesome, and they've put a couple holes in it for aerodynamic purposes and patented it again, and it went through because it was different. It was different enough,
Cool.
I have a question. And we talked about, I think we talked about this with Ray while he was on, but I think it'd be good to go over again because I'm sure people want to know timeline. What do you guys? What are you guys looking at? What are you hoping for? What if everything goes perfectly smooth? What?
So if everything goes perfectly smooth, we have we've made some really great leaps and bounds with our big players, with our big partners. So we've got construction loans secured, and we've got some big partners that are coming in to help us close on land and to get the money coming in to finish off the facility. Assuming that everything goes perfectly, we will break ground sometime, hopefully, late spring, early summer next year. And then in a perfect world, it's going to take us 18 months to open everything, but we want to phase the construction out to where we've got the tunnel and the other attractions open as early as possible. Just from a business sense, it makes sense for us to have the things that can cash flow early open. And so we're cash flowing. And then as the other pieces get finished out, then we're able to open those up. I mean, really, for anyone who doesn't know, the reason hotels take so long to build, the initial construction's easy. I mean, it's just kind of copy, paste, repeat. I've got my walls and my concrete and my I-beams, but it's going in and doing all of those details on each individual room. So that's really what kind of takes a long time. So we've designed the facility with the customer in mind and expecting a lot of walk-ins and a lot of kind of pass-through traffic. So the lobby areas and the other attractions and the wind tunnels should be open, I would say between 12 to 15 months after we break ground. We should have the wind tunnel facility fully operational and ready to get people in the wind.
So from today, like a 2-year timeline, something like that.
Probably, realistically. Yeah.
Cool. And there was a time when we talked, I don't know when, whether it was with Ray or was with you when we were out there for military. How do you guys feel about your financial picture? Are you still looking for people to invest, or is it filled out?
We're absolutely still looking for people to invest. And that's the hard part when you're explaining the situation to people. Is they're like, man, that's a massive undertaking. It's like, oh, it is a huge undertaking. And then we talk about, I just said, oh, we've secured a construction loan, and people are like, oh, so you're done. And it's like, no, no, that's inching closer to the finish line. But what that allows us to do is we know that we have money coming once things are solidified. So now everything costs money on the front end. And it's like, you think, oh, I want to start a business. And then you realize that every time you breathe or have a conversation, some tax office wants to charge you $500. So So far, we've spent a decent amount of money already just meeting with investors and getting plans drawn up, and even sitting down with a consulting firm. I mean, you got to put every lawyer on a $5,000 or a $10,000 retainer, and it adds up pretty quickly. So yeah. We're still accepting investors. Our minimum investment's 25,000, which I know sounds like a lot for people who are just in the sport. If that's outside of your wheelhouse, we have other pre-opening options available as well. We've got the project listed on Indiegogo right now, so we've got
nice.
We've got some bulk tunnel time packages on there. We've got some membership packages on there as well. And then I'm hopefully within the next 2 weeks or so, we will actually have our point of sale linked to our website, so people will be able to pick up stuff there as well if they'd like. So we're very skydiver friendly and very tunnel fire friendly. And in a perfect world, if we had a whole investor panel of skydivers and tunnel flyers that have been doing it for a long time that believe in what we believe in, like that's perfect for us. And we're very lucky that the big partners that we have are people from the area that it's really the biggest part of the conversation we've had with them is, hey, look, this is what we have to offer, and this is the problem. Here's our solution. Let us run with what we know, and I promise you this is going to do great. And here's all the surveys we've done, and here's the people we've talked to that want to buy tunnel time from us. So we know that the people we have partnered with, we have full reign to do with this wind tunnel exactly what we intend to do. So we're not going to get any big wig pushback. We're going to be able to do exactly what it is we need to do, because the whole business flourishes based on what we can do with the wind tunnel.
And is it okay to, like, can you mention you've got kind of a big name partner? Is it okay?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of our bigger partners is Travis Pastrana, which is absolutely incredible. Ray flew Travis, I think when Travis was like 12 or 14 and in Vegas forever ago. And man, it has been a whirlwind having Travis involved. Just because like I've got him in my phone now, I'm scrolling through my contact, and every time I pass his name, I'm like, all right. And it's we've talked before. He I don't know if I can say that actually. I'm gonna skip over that. But I mean, we've had a few, we just like FaceTime each other, and we're just talking about, oh hey man, yeah, what's going on? Oh yeah, this is what's up, and I got this thing going on, and it's been surreal. And knowing what he can bring to the facility and the types of events he wants to do and the partnerships and everything we want to do, it's really, really fantastic. I know at a minimum, we're going to do one Nitro Circus event a year. We're looking to do a bunch of other fundraiser type events and different things like that, give back to a lot of different community, programs, or scholarship programs or anything like that. Like I said earlier, I had aspirations to join the military, and that's for people who haven't caught on yet. The military and the DoD side really is a huge part of what we do in the wind tunnel world as well. So like, I work with those guys all the time. And one of the coolest things that I've ever been able to do, it's awesome to take somebody who's able-bodied and they're, a tier 1 operator, and you teach them to fly, and that they're going to go out there and crush it anytime they need to use their body flight skills at an operational level. But man, the magic and blessing that you feel when you're able to take that guy who, like, unfortunately ran over an IED or lost his arm or whatever, and they're able to come back, and you're able to get them kind of back into the fold and be like, hey man, we all know what you can do. You're still around your boys. You're around your people, and you can still get in here and do this. And, even I've had double amputees, triple amputees, like we've had quadriplegics, and we can take them in the tunnel and they can experience that again. They can get back in there and do that. And even, the Gold Star Family Program is huge. And it's a college tuition program and a financial support program for children of fallen soldiers. But the Gold Star Family, program, they do a lot of other events and stuff like that. And we would love to do stuff where it's like, hey, Gold Star Family's coming out, bring your kids, bring your family members. You're going to come and fly. You're going to get to see what your family member did. You're going to get to experience what happened, and we're also very well connected in that area. So we can have people from those particular units come out and spend time with them, and they can fly with them and see exactly what happened. So it's a really fantastic blending of worlds and being able to give back to different communities and people who are involved in the body flight world. I mean, the amount of team guys I know or military guys that have fallen in love with flying, and like all the money and time they have outside of military stuff they spend on jumping or flying. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like you're a Navy SEAL and you're out here like, I just bought a new paraglider, dude. Like, all right, bro. All right, man. Whatever makes you happy. Like, I love seeing you in the wind and it's your jam. So let's find a way to support that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So on the website,
yep.
there, if I'm correct from previous conversation, there is a spot where if somebody hears this and they do have interest in investing or finding out more, there's an investor link. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got an investment and opportunities page. People can go on there and they can read about the facility. It's got some, simple information about what we've got. There's a little blurb on there about Travis. And then there's a drop-down menu where people can go on and give us their name, send us a short little message. If that's too much work for people, they can email us at info@flyawaytn.com and we'll get back to you that way as well.
And I guess when you said your minimum investment is 25 grand, is it something where on the skydiver side, are there perks necessarily on the, like, I want to be part of the wind tunnel scene, I want to fly. So if I invest 25 grand, does that, like, can I be a member? Or you know what I mean? Like, is there information about that?
Every investment includes a lifetime membership.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And then we're still playing with the numbers a little bit. The full intention is, let's say that you invest $25,000 a year, or you invest your $25,000, you get your lifetime membership, and then your investment, once we start getting your returns calculated, we say, okay, based off of your returns and your dividend, we're going to give you tunnel time kind of in relation to that dividend as well. So the goal is, if you made an investment, we give you a lifetime membership. If I end up putting 5 to 10 hours of tunnel time on account for you a year, that's worth it in my book, because number one, you enabled us to do this. And at the same time, the investment that you made has built the business that is now making you enough of a profit on your investment that I can turn around and say, hey, I'm going to put some tunnel time on account for you. So you're not only getting you're getting your financial gain, but you're also able to get a little bit of tunnel time out of it too.
Cool. Awesome. I bet some skydivers will find that interesting.
I hope so. And for people too, I mean, there's a few extra steps to this, and it's a little convoluted and cloudy on our end for how much I can actually walk people through it, because we end up in kind of a weird, like, insider trading backdoor deal type thing where it just it could look a little messy, but this is a qualified investment, which means that there's certain SEC, so Security Exchange Commission, there's certain requirements that people have to meet in order to be able to invest. But if you had a group of 5 skydivers who wanted to go in on an investment together, they essentially can form an LLC or the best type holding company for whatever state they're located in. And that company itself can invest into the business as well. So there's options for people who want to invest, but maybe don't have the financial means to do so, or there's a team or whatever that wants to do that as well. There are other options too. And I can point you in the right direction and connect you with people, but I can't, like, walk you through how to do it and give you the documents.
Okay. Wow, that's great. I mean, just the introduction to the idea is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Are there other questions that you get on a regular basis, or things that you think, commonly people want to know about the business, about the vision, the plan, that we haven't had a chance to go over yet, that you want to make sure and share?
I mean, ironically, I think a lot of people just ask me how much I want to charge for tunnel time.
Yeah. That's what they want to know. And that's
the brass tacks.
That's the whole point.
Like, look, I don't care. How much do you want to charge? I don't care if it's hot. I don't care if it's bumpy. How much are you charging for time? So, yeah.
And they want to know, are you going to be happy to see me when I show up and want to fly?
Absolutely.
Like,
I mean,
that's what they want to know.
Doesn't that just speak to the need that exists?
No, it does. It totally does. Well, and I mean, I think if we got time, I kind of want to get into just some back end stuff and kind of give people an idea of where I'm coming from as well. Like, when I built out our operational costs, I did it in a way that I said, I want to be able to provide these things. So I know that at a minimum, I need to invest X amount of money a year into our marketing, X amount of money a year into hosting a competition, which costs way more money than you'd ever think it does. Having sponsored athletes, having brand ambassadors, different things like that. And that's where I really started to kind of build out our price points as well. So we've got a significant part of our budget allocated to running competitions, to having sponsored athletes, to having teams. And that's a huge thing that we are going to do with competition is not only are we going to run some really badass and well put together competitions, but if you compete, you're going to get paid well. Like the days of $1,000 cash prize for first place is over. Like that's bullshit. And it is, because at the end of the day, if you have put in enough time and money to compete, like let's say you want to compete in VFS, you are easily spending fucking 60 hours in the tunnel to get good enough to go and compete and pray that you maybe get like third place. I did a pickup team with Ben Rohn in Spain for VFS. I'm sure J. Russ was laughing at us the whole time.
I love it.
But we won third place and we got 15 minutes of tunnel time. And it's like, okay, that's cool and all. And granted, it was a pickup team. So it's not like we put a lot of effort into doing it. But at the same time, I had been instructing and flying full time for 6 years at that point. And Colin and I were training a couple 100 hours a year for our two-way team. So like the amount of money that I was worth at that point in time, the amount of effort we had put into that, we still got little to no return out of it. And the first place team, I think, won like 500 euro. And it was like, dude, that didn't even cover registration for the comp. How? And I understand the competitions are super expensive to run, but we're not allocating funds on the front end because it's not a huge driver for most of the businesses. So we took a step and said, this is a major driver for us. Competition is one of our main focuses. We want to make sure that competition is healthy, it's thriving. We've got strong disciplines that are well thought out and concrete and don't change every competition. And we're actually paying people to compete because that's where we get growth and we get totally spacing on the word. We get permanence in the sport almost, where people are staying in the sport. And the amount of people I've seen that like have competed for a long time and then just walked away because it's like, all I do is waste time and money. I waste time and money. It's like, okay, well, how do we keep you from doing that? If you win a competition, you should win $50,000 for the first place. And you should probably get a sponsorship out of that. You should probably get some tunnel time out of that.
In a sense, it validates their effort and their time and their energy and their skill. And I mean, it's a validation.
100%. And that's the amount of people that I've sat down and talked to as well, just about competition, and even friends and family of mine that don't know anything about tunnel flying. They watch videos of me competing and they're like, man, how is this not on TV? How does everybody not know about this? And it's because we look at ourselves and we say, we know how badass this is. And this should be like, we should be on ESPN, or we need Coca-Cola should sponsor us, or why isn't Red Bull running the whole indoor series? And it's like, no, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
We haven't taken it upon ourselves to build it there yet. We expect people to recognize how cool this is. But right now, we're the figure skater that can spin really, really fast. And it's like, you spin really fast, dude. Good for you. And it's not until that person takes it upon themselves to be like, no. Now, recognize how difficult this is and see how much effort and time and money goes into this to know that it's something worthy of recognition and it's a competition that people are going to enjoy. That's where we get international recognition and sponsorship and viewership and stuff like that. I don't want Coca-Cola to come in and sponsor it, but I know that in order for us to get to a place with competition that we're healthy enough as a sport that we can have regional comps and then a national comp and then international comps, and we can do that multiple times a year, and it's not the same competitors every single time. You know, it's not the same 60 people who've been showing up to every competition for the last 10 years with a few new faces sprinkled in here and there. Like we've got a healthy, thriving sport. We've got multiple classes. You've got really cool stuff happening. And it takes somebody to take the financial leap and say, we're going to put $1 million a year aside to putting together a competition, to paying out competitors, to paying out cash prizes, and to have sponsored athletes, because that's the only way to do it.
Well, and you guys are going to be in a unique position. Think about like when you do, I'm thinking about when I do a demo at iFly after class, I do a 45-second, 1-minute demo, and my demos are very basic compared to what people are doing, and these families are sitting around and they think they're just like in awe, and I'm not doing anything special, I'm doing some layouts and some outface carving and nothing's fancy.
It's the up and down, man. That gets
and really all they care about is the up and down. Go up.
I mean, what you're talking about, taking it upon ourselves to help carry the sport to the next level. You guys, like, what if you have shows where people actually buy a ticket to come watch a show in the tunnel, and you've got these world-class flyers coming in, and it's a show that is organized and planned and structured, and it's lights and sound and music. I'm like, you make it an entertain. Dude, people would love that.
Oh, so we are well into the weeds on doing something very similar to that.
I mean, I would love it. I'll buy a ticket.
I'm hesitant to give too much info on it, just because our biggest concern is that the Planning and Zoning Commission might shut us down. But to intrigue you, or to kind of wet your whistle a bit, the intent is to put a massive tunnel somewhere in great proximity to visibility, where we can implement potentially some pyrotechnics and some LEDs, and to do shows that are on a schedule that will not only give passerbys and people driving by and people on the property a fantastic show, but we also want to do some type of orchestrated show to a dinner or something like that as well. We've got stuff in the works for it. Like I said, I don't want to put too much out there, because I don't want people to be disappointed if somebody says, no, sorry, you can't do that, because we'll have to pivot just a little bit.
Cool.
But I mean, like you said, you even said earlier, having Krav come out and do shows and do different things like that. I mean, that's a huge thing that in the modern era, like, information and media is huge. So, Ray desperately wants to run a podcast, and we all know how fun it is to talk to Ray and just let him ramble and kind of do whatever. And so, we fully intend to build out a pretty robust media department as well. So that's going to be media production as far as videos and tutorials and how-tos and getting different competition stuff put together, and being able to facilitate our own in-house media production, I think would be great. But on top of that, we want to have multiple channels for podcasts and conversations, and everybody likes to receive information differently. And some people, there's probably a lot of people that hate the way my voice sounds, and that's totally fine. So if you want to hear the same information from somebody else, we want to be able to kind of provide that avenue or a different perspective or whatever it is. So we've talked about doing silly stuff and this is where we can kind of lean on Travis a little bit, where we bring out some extreme sports athletes or maybe some celebrities and like, hey, have you ever flown before? No, never flown before. Okay, cool. Let's take you through the whole thing. Like, you're an extreme sports athlete. I've seen you do this badass thing on your dirt bike, and you take them in the wind tunnel and they suck, and kind of show everybody like, man, it's a new thing. And you can kind of show how much time it takes to get through the progression, and then give them an opportunity to talk about some of their other passions and hobbies and things like that. And that allows us to kind of get the sport to more people, and hopefully, bridge some gaps that we haven't been able to bridge in the past. But, we're lucky enough to have all this technology available to us, where if we just put a little bit of time and effort into it, we can get enough people excited to make something really, really special happen.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Chris, do you think that our viewers would rather see Cam's tunnel in the background than our 6-panel doors?
I don't think so. I mean,
no, that's the most exciting thing we can put back there.
Doors, right?
That's right.
I mean, you got
we
a
all have the
bifold door.
exact same door
Holy
behind.
shit!
We all have the same door behind us.
Yeah.
Are we in the same house? Are you guys right in the room?
Just different rooms.
Why did we do it like this? We should be in the same room. So stupid. Oh man. All right, real quick. So Flyaway Tennessee.
Yep.
The website is flyawaytn.com.
Yep.
If you just want information, go check out the website. If you are interested in investment opportunities, there's information on there. There is an Indiegogo campaign. You can search Flyaway Tennessee and find that.
Yep.
If you have questions or things that you want to reach out to Cam and Ray and the people involved in this awesome project, you can email info@flyawaytn.com.
You got it, man.
So
Cool.
please,
You're a good listener.
Please, you guys, if you're listening to this, please share this information with your skydiving friends, with your tunnel flying friends, or just families that want to go on vacation. I mean, what we've heard about Pigeon Forge and Tennessee and the mountains, the Smoky Mountains.
Smoky Mountains.
I mean, it's not just for tunnel flyers and skydivers. It's going to be.
Look, that's
for
where Dolly
people.
Parton lives too. That's you like Dolly Parton.
Who doesn't like Dolly Parton?
Who doesn't like Dolly Parton?
Come
man?
on.
She's a national hero.
That's awesome. All right.
If you're in East Tennessee, it's Dolly Parton and Jesus. And that's about all you need to know.
What I want to know is there fishing? I think you said something about fly fishing. I'm not big into fly fishing, but
there's plenty of fishing. There's
fishing?
a lot of there's good bass fishing
Trout
out there.
fishing?
There's really, really fantastic trout fishing. Lots of rainbow and brown trout, and it's totally beautiful. So Townsend is fantastic, and then up in the park is really fantastic too. And it's fly fishing looks really difficult and looks very pretty, but there's not as steep of a learning curve as you think.
Yeah. Well, I want to go fishing now.
We'll do it. We'll make it happen.
Cool. All right. Well, I think it's that time, man. You've
all right.
You got to say it.
You've done it again. You wasted a perfectly good hour listening to the Krav Show with J. Russ, Chris, and the one and only Cameron McMahon. Cam, thank you so much for being here, man. So exciting to hear about what you guys are doing, about the project, and I know I'm looking forward to it. J. Russ is looking forward to.
Yeah.
A couple years away, we're hope to be over there with you guys, having fun, enjoying some awesome times in the tunnel and out in Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
Everybody listening, thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting what we're doing, and get out there in the sky, jump out of an airplane, get in the tunnel, have fun, enjoy being with your friends, and crave, do more, be better. Thanks you guys. Night.
Thanks you guys.